It was late August 2003 when we found the book. Back then, I was a sophomore at a small liberal arts college in northern Massachusetts. My roommate Evan had scored us an off-campus rental, a beat-up 2-story, colonial house on the edge of the woods. It's the kind of place that looked haunted before you even stepped inside. Rent was dirt cheap. Landlord didn't ask many questions. We moved in 2 weeks before classes started. The strange part, there was a room upstairs with a padlocked door, and in the basement, under a rotting section of floorboards, we found a box. And inside that box was the book. The book wasn't ancient, not in the traditional sense. Its leather binding was cracked, sure, but the paper was relatively intact. No mold, no mildew. It smelled more like iron than old paper. The cover was blank. No title, just a faint embossed circle with something like wings. But wrong, almost insectoid. Evan was the one who pulled it out. "Dude," he laughed, "this looks like something out of the Ninth Gate." I didn't laugh. When he opened the first page, I swear the temperature in the room dropped a few degrees. The writing inside was in Latin. All of it. Neither of us read Latin, but Evan thought it was hilarious. He studied philosophy and liked to show off. Over the next few days, he kept it with him, flipping through it like a prop, reading random phrases out loud. Sometimes the air would feel heavier afterward. Then small things started to go wrong. Light bulbs popped. Our microwave refused to heat. My laptop crashed every night at exactly 3:11 a.m., but Evan, he loved it. "I'm telling you," he said one night, "this thing's got vibes. Maybe it's like one of those Vatican exorcism books." I wish it was. About a week in, Evan decided he wanted to read a full page. He found an online translator, matched the Latin characters, and began working through it slowly. It took him 2 hours to get through one page. I was in my room when I heard him say the last line out loud. Then the entire house groaned. I don't mean the pipes or floorboards. The walls themselves, like something exhaled behind the plaster. I ran downstairs. Evan stood there, frozen, holding the book. His nose was bleeding. His eyes were bloodshot, and on the far wall behind him, something had scratched 3 vertical lines into the drywall. Should have burned it, tossed it in the river, moved out that night. Instead, we did what idiots in real stories do. We rationalized. Old house. Evan just cut himself flipping pages. Maybe a raccoon got in. By midnight, things were back to normal. That was the first night I had the dream. I was in the upstairs room, the locked one. But in the dream, the door was open. Inside was a circle drawn in ash, and Evan, standing in the center, repeating the Latin words from the book, over and over. And something was standing behind him, tall, faceless, hunched. I woke up drenched in sweat. At breakfast, Evan looked like hell. "Nightmare?" I asked. He nodded slowly. "Yeah, but I don't think I was the one dreaming." That's when he told me he'd been hearing Latin even while awake. Little whispers, like a chant carried by wind. I checked his arms. Faint red lines had appeared on the insides, shaped like the symbols in the book. He hadn't drawn them, said they stung, like a tattoo burning under the skin. That day, we agreed to seal the book in the basement again. But something had already changed. The basement smelled different, like damp ash and rust. We wrapped the book in a towel and locked it inside an old toolbox. Buried it under 3 paint cans. But that night, it was back on the dining room table. Evan swore he didn't touch it. He looked genuinely afraid. His arrogance was gone. We threw it outside. 10 minutes later, it was on the couch. We didn't hear any footsteps. No doors creaked. No sounds at all. It just appeared. I slept with the lights on. I kept hearing breathing from inside the walls. Not wind, not animals. Breathing. A week after the first full passage, things escalated. Evan started speaking Latin in his sleep. I recorded it once. His voice doubled in pitch, overlapping itself. When I played it back, my nose bled. I showed it to our professor of ancient languages. The man listened for 20 seconds and turned white. "That's not ecclesiastical Latin," he muttered. "It's pre-Roman, pagan. This is a summoning liturgy." He refused to touch the recording again. I begged him to help translate it. He agreed to try, but said whatever the passage was meant to summon. It wasn't human. By the next morning, I hadn't heard from Evan. I found him in the locked upstairs room. The door was wide open. Inside, the walls were covered in writing. Latin, charcoal, gouged into the paint. Evan sat cross-legged in the center, rocking gently, the book open in front of him. His eyes were solid black, not rolled back, not shadowed. Black. He was humming. The tune sounded like Gregorian chant run in reverse. I screamed his name. He looked up and smiled. The smile wasn't his. "I didn't mean to open the gate," he said in a voice not his own, "but it's too late now." I pulled him out of the room, slammed the door shut. The symbols on the wall shimmered like oil under light. Evan blinked rapidly, then started sobbing. Said he didn't remember going upstairs, didn't remember writing anything, but he did remember something watching him from the corner of his eye, something he couldn't even look at directly. We packed bags, planned to leave the house the next morning. That night, the chanting started, not from Evan, from the house. Voices echoed through the vents, walls, even light fixtures. Every voice said the same thing. "You read the words. Now you are the verse." I called the professor, the one helping with translation. He'd gone missing. Campus police found his office door torn off the hinges, his office ransacked. The recording I gave him burned. His notes mentioned one final phrase before he disappeared. Verbum incarnatum est et monebat. The word became flesh, and it remains. I hung up and started searching Latin forums for help. One user messaged me back, said the text sounded like a Liber Tenebris, an ancient counterfeit gospel used by cults in the 1500s. Most copies were burned, but some were said to burn themselves back. We checked out of the house by 6 a.m. I turned the key in to the landlord, a pale, tight-lipped man who barely made eye contact. When I mentioned the book, he froze. "You opened it?" he asked. I nodded, exhaled sharply, then handed me a manila envelope. Inside was a single photograph. A group of people kneeling in that upstairs room, all facing away from the camera. At the center, a pedestal with the book. The date written on the back, August 1973, exactly 30 years earlier, and scribbled beneath it, "Only the reader bleeds." But everyone hears. We left town, got a hotel 2 states over. No matter where we went, the chanting followed, not constant, but random. Vents, pipes, radios flickering to life. Evan started hallucinating shadows and mirrors. I saw writing appear in steam on a window. Latin again. Non potes oblifsci scriptum est. Cannot forget what is written. By then it was clear. The curse wasn't attached to the house. It was bound to the act of reading aloud, speaking the words. Even one phrase. It imprinted itself in sound, in breath. In us. We thought running would save us, that whatever haunted the house would stay there. But after 3 nights in a motel in upstate New York, Evan stood at the foot of my bed at 3:13 a.m. He wasn't asleep. His eyes were open wide, pupils fully dilated. He whispered something in Latin, not a chant, but a name. The moment he said it, every light bulb in the motel blew at once. The power cut out. The next morning, Evan didn't remember a thing. But when I checked the bathroom mirror, the word he'd spoken was written in frost Avenat, a name or a warning. I tried contacting the only person who might still help, a fringe Catholic priest. I met in a comparative religion class the year before. Father Marin. Yes, that was really his name. We answered his phone on the first ring. "You read it, didn't you?" My blood ran cold. He told me to come immediately. We drove 6 hours straight to rural Pennsylvania. His chapel was a stone building at the edge of the woods, over 200 years old. Wouldn't let us inside until he anointed our foreheads with oil. "It's not for cleansing," he said, "for containment." It's inside the chapel. He made us sit on a salt circle carved into the floor. Evan was shaking. He hadn't slept in days. Father Marin placed the book. Yes, the same book, at the center. "I've seen this once before," he said. In 1974, a family in Quebec read one passage aloud. 3 people died in their sleep. 1 survived, but couldn't speak again. He turned the pages with tongs. This is not just language. It's frenetic invocation. The words themselves shape perception. I asked him what Avenat meant. He paused. "It's not a name," he said quietly. "It's a place. And you're bringing it here." He tried burning the book that night. We went outside, built a fire pit, doused it in lighter fluid. It didn't burn. The flames curled away from the pages. The heat bent around it like it was pushing reality aside. Evan suddenly screamed and dropped to his knees. His skin bubbled like he was sunburned from the inside. Father Marin dragged him into the chapel, yelling prayers. I stayed outside. The fire had gone cold. When I reached for the book, it was gone. But in the ash, something had been left behind. 3 red feathers, still warm, and a single human tooth. That night, Evan confessed everything. He'd read more than I knew. He hadn't just sounded out the Latin. He'd understood it. There were instructions, he whispered. Descriptions, rituals, and maps. To places that don't exist anymore. Places older than the flood. I asked if he followed any of them. He nodded. Yeah, there's one passage. It's like a tether. If you say it 3 times, he trailed off. I pressed him. He looked up, tears in his eyes. I already said it twice. Father Marin paled. Don't have time, he said. That last phrase, it's not just a chant. It's a summons. We locked Evan in the chapel's crypt, not to punish him, but to protect him, and maybe to protect ourselves. That night, the woods outside sang. I don't know how else to describe it. The wind carried melody, not music, more like intent. Words so ancient they weren't spoken, just felt. Father Marin prepared the rite of binding. He'd only performed it once before. He needed 3 things. An item from the first awakening. A speaker of the phrase. A willing listener. That was me. I had to hear the 3rd phrase, and hold it without repeating it, or everything would open. At midnight, we brought Evan up from the crypt. He looked hollow. Not broken, but used. Like something had been inside him and finally stepped out. He stood in the center of the chapel's salt ring. Father Marin gave me a wooden rosary soaked in oil. Whatever you do, he said, don't speak after you hear it. Evan whispered the 3rd phrase. It wasn't just sound. I saw the word. It carved itself into the air. Symbols forming in fire and ash. The walls of the chapel pulsed inward. Every candle died. I felt something arrive. Not walk in, not appear. Arrive. It stood behind Evan, tall, featureless, wreathed in veils that didn't move with gravity. I couldn't see its face, only where it wasn't. Father Marin began the rite. He shouted over the wind. The Latin he used was old, raw. Every word he said felt like it shaved something off my sanity. The entity didn't move. It just looked at me. It's not Evan, me. Then it stepped forward. Its hand, if you can call it that, reached through the salt ring and stopped. Smoke rose from its fingers. It hissed, not in pain. In recognition, it knew me. Not just now. Always. Marin finished the rite. The entity shrieked. A sound that ruptured the windows and made my nose bleed instantly. Then it collapsed. Not vanished. Collapsed inward, like it was being folded in reverse. Then dropped. The book turned to ash. Just ash. No fire, no smoke, gone. We thought it was over. We were wrong. Because now I dream in Latin. I don't speak it. I hear it. Every night, the same phrase. Verbum incarnatum est manebat. The word became flesh, and it remains. I think it marked me. I think I was the verse. I think I still am. Evan was never the same. He checked into a monastery 6 months later. Doesn't talk to anyone. They say he walks the chapel halls, whispering to shadows. Father Marin died in his sleep in 2006. No cause. But the look on his face. Terror. As for me, I haven't read Latin since. Not one word. I won't listen to it in songs, in films, in prayers, not even Ave Maria. Because once you hear the word, it hears you back. And somewhere in the dark, Avenat is still waiting. It's not for summoning, for re-entry. If you ever find a book with no title, written in Latin, don't be curious, don't be clever. Don't even read a syllable aloud, because some words aren't just words. They're keys, and they don't unlock things. They invite them in. You don't need to believe this story. But ask yourself, why do exorcists still train in Latin? Why are ancient books hidden, sealed, or destroyed? Why does every summoning begin with a sound? If you hear it again, don't answer. And whatever you do, never ever repeat it.